Probably you all know the story of Newton and the apple tree. This falling apple that was the inspiration that led him to come up with the universal law of gravitation. But did you think, what if he would have seen the falling apple and just do nothing? Or maybe he was distracting, checking socials. That would have probably changed the course of his life, maybe the course of history. We all have these falling apple moments in our lives. These apparently simple events that can change the course of our lives. Or not. Depends what we do about them. Let me share my own falling apple moments related to reason and art. Reason and art have always felt close to me. Maybe this rational mindset has to do with having more of a scientific background, or maybe just the way I am. But the thing is that I've always felt like very close to physics, very close to math, very close to computers. Looking to the world with this rational eye, for example, means that I never play the lottery. I know that there's a negligible statistical probability, and then I just think it's not worth it. And for a lot of people, this is very exciting, I know it. But actually for me, it's okay, and being rational has many positive sides. For example, I was never afraid of flying. No? Looking at all these yellow dots, no? So many planes taking off and land every day in so many different parts of the world, and most of the time, nothing happens. That makes me feel safe. And I hope that this doesn't end up as a catastrophic prophecy, this TEDx speaker predicts. It's going to be very popular for the video, but very, very sad for me. I was in touch with art at an early age, probably because my father was a passionate artist. I went to museums and exhibitions pretty soon. I could see him painting almost since I was a kid. And even I lived the situations where we were stopping the car in the middle of nowhere just because there was something nice to paint. In my case, I have expressed it in a different way, mainly with photography that I've been doing for a long time, almost since I could hold my father's camera. However, I've been quite skeptical with, let's say, new forms of art. So to draw the line here is challenging for me. Well, to draw a line here would be very, very destructive. But to draw the line between what is innovation and what is something opportunistic. So these two things, this rational mindset and this friction with modern art, are part of my beliefs. But as you will see, those beliefs can be challenged when unexpected things happen. During the pandemic, I became interested in blockchain technologies, including NFTs. NFTs, for those of you who don't know, stands for non-fungible tokens, and as a big simplification can be understood as certificates of ownership, which are secured by blockchain. As a result of this exposure, I became in touch with the Fellowship Artistic Project, which was co-founded by Alex Cartagena, a photographer, where the legacy of another photographer, August Sander, was going to be linked to the blockchain, or more formally said, it was going to be minted as NFTs. So August Sander is considered to be one of the most important German photographers of the early 20th century. And out of his extensive legacy, some of the surviving items were put together by his great-grandson as this 10,000 item collection. So a project related to the blockchain and to photography, you can understand that this really resonated on me. And I participated into the assignment of these 10,000 items, where every participant was awarded with 2 of them. You wouldn't know which ones, that would be revealed later. I knew that August had this very expressive collection of portraits, and I was really hoping to get some of those nice portraits. But on the 12th of February 2022, finally the 2 photos were revealed, so I learned which I had got my nice portraits. No. So what I got was something like an urban landscape and something like a forest. Nothing to complain, although it was not exactly what I had in mind. At the time that this unveil happened, I was spending some of the winter weeks in the Mediterranean coast. And some friends of my girlfriend had come to visit us. So we were just walking in the city center as tourists when suddenly I stopped and became frozen. So took my phone, checked my NFT. I can say that I went through every single window and corner trying to verify the impossible. I was at the same footsteps that August, maybe 100 years earlier. So, of course, I immediately told my friends. I texted Alex, very, very exciting. I later tweeted about this. How can this be possible? We all have heard about these impossible coincidences, but really, what was the likelihood that August was there and I was there? August, to the best of my knowledge, spent most of his time in Cologne, couldn't find records of him in Spain, let alone in Valencia. I'm not from Valencia. I've never permanently lived there. And then I go to the place where I had a photo assigned randomly the day before. So very exciting hours. It's really difficult not to try to find meaning in a situation like this. It's difficult not to try to interpret it, or the universe is telling me something. Can this just be a coincidence, really? So very, very exciting hours. And I can say that this event really pushed me to become public about some artistic project that I had been working or thinking for some time. And this project is about generative art. And generative art, you can already guess, is not like the most orthodox branch of art. We can say that in generative art, the art form, which is digital in general, is the result of some software or some algorithm and some randomness. So the artist is the one who develops the software. You can see here some examples of generative art by some fellow artists. And you can see some of the common elements. You can see that the presence of these geometrical shapes, to have this color in the lines, color in curves. But I wanted to do something different, something that was not related to geometrical shapes, but actually on the roots of asking myself what makes this beautiful, this picture. How to relate the beauty of an artwork like this picture to its basic components in a digital representation, which are the pixels. Because the image is made of pixels. But what makes it beautiful is not only these pixels, this would be just a bunch of pixels. It's the way in which all those pixels are arranged, and then our visual system will look at them, it will create or recognize some patterns, and eventually that would trigger some emotion. I wanted to explore if this same set of information, this same set of pixels, can be beautiful under some other arrangement. Can there be beauty under some other unique pattern? That was my question. And from the different options, the one that I wanted to explore and the one with which I experimented was color smoothness. So color smoothness means basically to try to arrange or to move those pixels so that every pixel is as similar as possible to its neighbors. For example, we'll be moving from these 16 pixels to these other 16. The pixels are the same, they have been just rearranged in a way that their neighbors are as similar as possible. One possible way to try to tackle this problem is, okay, let's look at all the possible combinations, we measure them, and we take the best one. But actually, this is something that carries some extraordinary complexity. Look at a very trivial example, no? An image of 2 by 2. There are 24 ways to arrange those 4 pixels. Or more formally said, there are 24 permutations. If we move to the next trivial images, like 3 by 3, 4 by 4, you can see that the number of permutations starts to grow very quickly. And when we get to 24 by 24, and I'm taking here one of the iconic NFT images, 24 by 24, the number of permutations is this number. This is a number with 1,341 digits. It's a number that only makes sense in the realm of math. There's nothing really in the physical universe that we can compare, we can link, no? For example, the estimated number of atoms in the observable universe, this 10 to the 80, compared to this other number, it's completely negligible. And this is just 24 by 24. If we move to images as the ones that I will show you, which are, I mean, still small by today's standard, no? But it's 150,000 or 1.5 million pixels. It's even difficult to find calculators to get these numbers. And I challenge you to try it. The last one is a number with 8 million digits. So if we were simply to write this number, really small, like maybe half a centimeter per digit, only to write all the digits of this number, it would take us 43 kilometers. Okay, this is telling us that the brute force approach is not really an option. So the way to go to find this needle in the haystack is to use something called meta-heuristic algorithms. And the one that I explore is relatively simple to explain. Let's suppose that this is our image. It's a square with the epixel. And we want to know what is the starting point, no? What is the initial color smoothness. So we can see the differences of each pixel with the vertical neighbors. The differences here are represented as arrows. We can then check the differences with the horizontal neighbors, and then we can check with the diagonal neighbors. So if we add all those differences, we add all those arrows, we get like the color smoothness of that image. What the algorithm does is take randomly two of them and propose a swap. So this swap sometimes will improve the situation, sometimes it will make it worse. So what the algorithm does is, if the change is for the better, you take it on board and you follow with the process. And if it's worse, you take it sometimes, because eventually that would get you to a better place. What we can see in this video is, in a very accelerated fashion, 1.5 billion of these swaps applied to the Starry Night from Van Gogh. We can see that how the image evolves, and almost like a living entity ends up converting to this smoother pattern. If the starting point is a higher resolution image, this would be a 1.5 megapixel image, it's way more difficult to find smooth patterns, and you can see in the granularity of the images that we see. Every time you run the algorithm, you would get a different solution. This is part of the randomness. If the starting point is a slightly smaller image, in this case 0.15 megapixels, we can see more clearly these smoother patterns. These smoother patterns that personally I find them more beautiful, and they remind me in a way to these images that we've seen in the space telescopes, images about galaxies, stars, or a nebula. So the abstract beauty of these images was not something that I was expecting, but the fact that the Starry Night from Van Gogh evokes another image that reminds you to stars and galaxies seems like another beautiful, circular and unexpected coincidence that takes me back to my falling apple moments and to this very place and event. There are so many of those moments waiting for you out there, and remember that they can change your life. Thank you.